This episode contains graphic content that may not be suitable for all ages. Listener discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, help is available. Call or text 988 or chat with someone at 988lifeline.org. Those outside of the US, reach out to someone at your local crisis center or hotline. Please do not suffer in silence. Hey everyone, it's Micheal. Today's episode is a bit different from our usual fare. Today we are going to hear 2 episodes from the Patreon archives, both of which are extremely unnerving and mysterious in their own ways. The first is an alleged radio hijacking from New York in the mid-1990s, of which details only surfaced about a decade ago in some online circles. The second is the unsolved murder of a woman from Florida, which has been almost entirely forgotten over the past 30 years. Join me as we try to unpack these 2 strange stories on this very special episode of Unresolved. Wkcr is a radio station in the area of New York City, which can be found by tuning into station 89.9 FM. The station was originally granted its license by the FCC in October of 1941, and has remained a constant presence on the New York airwaves ever since. Originally established to be used by Columbia University's Radio Club, the CURC, it has become known as the university's unofficial radio station in the decades since, which is used to broadcast university-related news and commentary. Wkcr has a long and storied history, but has become notorious in the New York area for helping many jazz, alternative, and hip-hop musicians gain exposure. Once broadcast from the top of the World Trade Center, Wkcr has begun to transition from traditional terrestrial radio to include more online streaming options in recent years, having overcome tech-related setbacks in the process, referring to itself as the original FM, due to Columbia University's relationship with the founder of FM radio, Major Edwin Armstrong. Wkcr has a number of claims to fame, but in recent years, a bizarre story has begun to make the rounds online, which has led to many people being exposed to the station for the strangest of reasons. An anonymous post was made on a message board, which came with an unsettling video and audio file, and has become one of the stranger online mysteries that I've ever stumbled upon. This is the story of the Wkcr radio hijacking. In 2013, someone posted to the website 4chan, a message board that is similar to Reddit, but is known primarily for its anonymous nature. This post has since been deleted, as all posts on 4chan are scrubbed after a period of time. But with the Wayback Machine, I can see that it was made early on the morning of March 2nd, 2013. The post reads as follows. Around 1995, I was about 15. I used to stay up late in my room listening to the radio on a boombox with an integrated tape recorder. I'd dial through the stations, and when I heard something interesting, I'd hit record for a while, then move on. One night, I came across this. I don't think this was the beginning of the broadcast, but I caught a lot of it. Right at the end, an announcer says that the station I was tuned to was Wkcr 89.9 New York. There are a bunch of names and dates in there, but I've never run into anything else like this. The user then attached a recording of this audio, which, as you just heard, they claimed had been recorded in either 1994 or 1995, when they were a teenager. You can hear the classical music being played on the station get overpowered with a high-pitched squealing sound, which is when the purported hijacking begins. Listen for yourself.
Bob, Karen, Cindy, and Mary, husband, police, father, Shady, Michael, Rick, and Lucy, Monica, and Ellen. 1988, John Vernon, son of John, Senior, and Marilyn, brother, Kathy, and Chris, step-friend of Lucy, December 21st, 1988, Barry Valentino, son of Barry, Senior, and Jean, brother, Scott, Mark, and Lisa, Ann's friend, my friend. February 1985, Frank Oppenheimer, brother of Robert, husband of Jackie and Emily, father of Michael, our friend. In 1987, Henrietta Graham, mother of Ian, Emerald, Sally, my friend. March 17, 1988, Edward McGillis, brother of William, Jim, May, and Peggy, father of Shirley, Abby, and Geraldine. April 1988, Ruth Manani, wife of Rocco, friend of Bob and me. October 1988, Morgan Shoemake, father of Barbara, husband of Elsie, Barbara's dad. August 22nd, 1985, Irene McGillis DeTulio, sister of Millie, Margaret, Dan, Tony, Ida, Dominic, Nair, Scat, Elvira, and Joe, wife of William, mother of Mary Ann, grandmother of Lisa and Billy, me. July 4th, 1987, Peter Gunlock, son of Robert, step of Kay, brother of Bob, Karen, Cindy, and Mary, husband of Lisa, father of Shady, Mocha, Rick, and Lucy, my brother-in-law. November 1988, John Burns, son of John, Senior, and Marilyn, brother of Kathy and Chris, step of friend of Lisa and Billy. December 21st, 1988, Barry Valentino, son of Barry, Senior, and Jean, brother of Scott, Mark, and Lisa, Ann's friend. February 1985, Frank Oppenheimer, brother of Robert, husband of Jackie and Millie, father of Michael. May 1987, Henrietta Graham, mother of Ian, Emerald, Sally. March 17, 1988, Edward McGillis, brother of William, Jim, May, and Peggy, father of Shirley, Abby, and Geraldine. 1988, Ruth Manani, wife of Uncle, friend of Bob. October 1988, Morgan Shoemake, brother of Barbara, husband of Elsie, kidney failure.
You're tuned to WKCR FM New York, 89.9 on your dial. Colombian music is running a little late. It will be starting in a few minutes.
As you just heard, this recording is very unsettling. It almost seems like a bizarre musical piece, as it does sound very modern, but isn't very musical. At least, not really what you would expect from a radio station. However, since this was a college radio station, which can be known for dabbling in experimental or psychedelic sounds from time to time, we can't rule out the possibility of this being a piece of abstract audio. However, based on what some internet sleuths have found after hours of analysis, we can surmise that this is more than just noise. Throughout the audio, we can hear the sound of a woman's voice, who sounds very much like the female host at the end, but slightly different. In the audio, she seems to be reading out names, which some web sleuths have surmised includes the names of victims from the Pan Am Flight 103 crash in August of 1985. Some of the other names read aloud by the odd female voice seem to be obituaries from the late 1980s, including Frank Oppenheimer, the brother of Robert Oppenheimer, the theoretical physicist who helped develop the atomic bomb. But details are hard to come by. Because the audio level is so low and the audio itself is rather distorted, picking out more relevant details from it might be next to impossible. Strangely though, some sleuths on websites like Reddit have managed to piece together the names and dates from the recording, and believe that they were included for political reasons. It's possible that the originator of this audio included the names of airplane crash victims, most of whom were linked to mid-1990s conspiracy theories, which alleged American forces were involved in the shooting down of certain aircraft. In a lot of these conspiracy theories, American forces were involved in the crashes due to their links to nuclear weapons, due to potential terrorist activities and such. But it seems like these names were included to make some kind of obscure political statement. Because the audio is hard to parse through, we can only guess at the specifics of this statement. Unfortunately, the radio station that this reportedly came from, 89.9 Wkcr FM, did not report any such hijackings in the mid-1990s, so it's impossible to verify that this actually came from the station. We really only have the word of the person who uploaded this audio, an anonymous poster on 4chan, who, for all we know, could have fabricated this entire thing. Some believe that this is just an obscure piece of avant-garde music made by a college student in the 1990s, while others believe that this was a hoax created by someone on 4chan that was just looking to creep people out. If so, they definitely did their job, because this strange piece of media continues to exist on the internet, and the more time that elapses without answers, the stranger it becomes. It does remain possible that this was a legitimate radio hijacking from a college radio station which had very little professional oversight, but until we learn more about this story, it will remain unresolved. Now, we're going to take a quick break. For many of us, we're slogging it out through the dog days of summer. As someone who currently lives in Alaska, I'm trying to soak up the sunshine while I can get it. So for that reason, it's the perfect time to fuel up with Factor's quick and hassle-free meals. Take it from someone who's balancing the busy life of taking care of a toddler, diving into true crime research, orchestrating another cross-country move, and trying to be healthier in general. For me, eating smarter is key to staying on top of it all. With Factor's chef-crafted menu, including options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and even Keto, you can meet your wellness goals in no time. These dietitian-approved, fresh, never-frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So no matter how packed your day is, you can still enjoy nutritious, delicious meals. Kickstart your healthy routine today with Factor. With 35 different meals and over 60 add-ons each week, you'll never run out of new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals with dietitian-approved, restaurant-quality meals, including premium ingredients like filet mignon and shrimp. From breakfast to dessert, Factor keeps you fueled with easy, nutritious options, all ready in just 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, or cleaning required. Plus, with 6 menu preferences, it's effortless to find meals that fit your lifestyle. Head to factormeals.com/unresolved50 and make sure to use the promo code unresolved50 to get 50% off of your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's promo code unresolved50 at factormeals.com/unresolved50. That's factormeals.com/unresolved50 to get 50% off of your first box plus 20% off of your next month while your subscription is active. Now, we'll return for the second part of today's episode. On Monday, February 13th, 1995, a body was discovered in Port Richey, a suburb of Tampa, Florida. The body was found along Little Road, about 200 feet away from where it intersected Dusty Lane, less than a mile from the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. The partially clothed female body appeared to have been quickly dumped out of a vehicle in a slightly wooded area just off of a dirt road. She was found wearing only black stretch pants, black socks, a pink bow in her straight, shoulder-length reddish-gray hair, as well as an inexpensive silver necklace, and showed visible signs of trauma, although authorities have not given any more specific details in the years since, citing the unsolved nature of the case. The body of this murdered woman was discovered at around 1:40 that Monday afternoon, with a witness having driven through this location about 15 minutes prior, at around 1:25. This witness, who would remain nameless in the press, told police that they had not seen anything when they had driven by, and with the police stating that the remains were easily discovered, they weren't hidden amongst any foliage or anything like that. This gave them approximately 15 minutes for the body to have been dumped at this location, sometime between 1:25 and 1:40 p.m. Investigators would find tire tracks near the body, and would later be seen photographing pickup trucks in the region, leading some to believe that they were looking for one. However, again, citing the unsolved investigation, police would refuse to state any more definitive information about what they were looking for. Authorities were initially unable to identify the victim, a woman in her 40s, who stood about 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed approximately 180 pounds. But they would identify her later that week, withholding her name in the press until they were able to track down her family members. Kathy A. Struckhoff, incorrectly identified as Kathy Struckhoff in some early newspaper reports, was a 37-year-old that lived in West Pasco County at the time of her death. There, she had previously lived with her husband, Cletus, as well as their 4 children, in the Jasmine Lakes neighborhood of Port Richey. The family had moved to the Tampa region in 1990, hoping for a fresh start, but Kathy's depression, which she had struggled with for some time, would only worsen in the years to come, especially when it began to intersect her ongoing struggle with alcoholism. In August of 1993, police had responded to a disturbance at the Struckhoff home, with officers witnessing Kathy at one of the low points in her life. She was found drunkenly screaming at her husband and neighbors, and according to Pasco County Sheriff spokesman John Powers, she apparently wandered out of her house and was yelling obscenities at the deputies. She had been drinking, she slapped Cletus and tried to hit the deputies. Because of this incident, Kathy was charged with disorderly conduct, and that ultimately caused her to be fingerprinted by Pasco County Sheriff's officials, which would ultimately lead to police identifying her body just a couple of years later. Following this run-in with authorities, Kathy's issues with substance abuse would continue to become more and more evident, leading to her being alienated from her own family. Her husband Cletus would move back to Augusta, Missouri, a small town just west of St. Louis, in December of 1994, and would return just a couple of weeks later, in January, to take back the kids with him. In the weeks that would follow, Kathy would move into a home along Lilac Drive in Port Richey, about 3 blocks away from where she had lived with her family, and was last seen there by her neighbor George Hogan on Friday, February 10th. By the start of the following week, her body would be found abandoned just a few miles away. Early on in their investigation, police would learn that one of Kathy's friends had last seen her at around 3:30 p.m. on Sunday, February 12th. Less than 24 hours before her body was discovered. This friend reportedly dropped Kathy off at a bar in downtown Newport Richey, and authorities would state that Kathy had likely spent the better part of the afternoon and evening bar hopping. A large part of this assumption came from the fact that night, Sunday, Kathy was last seen at the Texans Lounge along Port Richey's Main Street. That evening, between approximately 10 and 10:30 p.m., Kathy was seen in the company of an older man named John, who was described as a white male between 50 and 60 years old, who stood about 5 feet 8 inches to 6 feet tall, weighed approximately 175 pounds with a slight potbelly and barrel chest, who had thinning grayish white hair and a large red bulbous nose. Staff at the Texans Lounge would describe this mysterious John, who was wearing wire-rimmed glasses as well as a dark red, white, and blue jogging jacket, as a regular at the bar. He had been seen there on numerous occasions before this evening, and was seen dancing with and talking to Kathy throughout the night. The two reportedly left together at around 11:30, and staff at the Texans Lounge would state that John never again returned. After leaving with this mysterious older man, several of Kathy's belongings would never be seen again. This included the purse that she had been carrying with her at the time, as well as the green top and the slippers that she was wearing that night. Authorities would release a few sketches of this mysterious John months after Kathy's murder, in the hopes of reigniting interest or recollection in her case. Speaking to the press in May of 1995, Pasco County Sheriff spokesman John Powers would state, "He's considered a witness and a possible suspect. We would like to talk to anyone who knows him or anything about him." While authorities stated that they received more than a dozen tips in the weeks that followed the release of these sketches, it's not believed that any of these led to any workable leads. Police would even note that they were unsure if John still lived in the area, believing him to have fled shortly after Kathy's death. This case would later be linked to the death of 45-year-old Lucille Schubert 2 months later, in April of 1995. Schubert, like Kathy, was a woman in or near middle age who was murdered in Pasco County, with her having left home and intending to hitchhike to a nearby government office to pick up her monthly allotment of food stamps. Unfortunately, she never arrived home, and while her body was later found, police have never revealed her cause of death, although it is believed that she was found in similar circumstances. Like Kathy, her case also remains unsolved. In February of 1997, the last known publication of any new details in this story, Pasco County Sheriff's Detective Stacy Morrison would note about the mysterious John. "We've never been able to establish who that man was. He isn't necessarily a suspect. He may be someone who can provide further information." Kathy's murder would be featured in numerous lists in the years to come, with Pasco County including her in their list of unsolved murders and disappearances from the area. But over time, her name would just begin to fade from those articles, with her story having close to no virtual presence. I mentioned Kathy's story in the full-length Diane Auget episode, as part of a string of women who were all murdered or went missing after visiting bars in the Tampa area over a roughly 7-year period. After learning that Kathy's case has been all but forgotten for the better part of the last 30 years, I decided to put together this short story so that it is hopefully never truly forgotten. Unfortunately though, more than 25 years after her death, her story does remain unresolved. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'll keep today's outro brief, but if you would like to hear more shorter, mysterious stories like the ones you just heard today, make sure to head over to patreon.com/unresolvedpod to become a patron. Everyone that joins above the $2.50 tier and above gets access to the backlog of Patreon exclusives, which currently number in the dozens. Some have gone on to be featured on regular episodes like this, but most are only available there on Patreon. I should be back with another regular episode next week, but until then, I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you again then. Take care.